The top stories tonight in Y News. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden locked in a tight race as contest narrows to key states.
3 senior police officials on shortlist for the next PNP chief.
President Rodrigo Duterte signs an executive order placing a price cap on COVID-19 tests. Cell phone signals restored in portions of Catanduanes province, but the power supply remains a problem.
Siony intensifies into a severe tropical storm.
And the Philippines included among world's safest countries in 2020 according to a study. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, November 4, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, the results of the U.S. presidential election is on a knife edge, with incumbent President Donald Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden on tight races in battleground states. However, Trump already claims a big win. Our senior correspondent from Maryland, USA, James Bontuyan, joins us tonight live to give us more details on the outcome of the U.S. elections. James, how's the situation there?
Arlene, with the nation on edge, Election Day seems to turn into an election week. This as the counting of votes continues across the country, while several swing states are scheduled to resume counts this morning. The outcome of the presidential election has narrowed to hinge on a handful of crucial battleground states that remain too close to call. Millions of early votes remain outstanding in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. However, President Trump claimed in his remarks from the White House early Wednesday that he already won the presidential race. He also vowed to challenge before the Supreme Court the continued counting of legal ballots. Democrat Biden has expressed confidence in the race. President Trump is projected to hold the state of Florida, but Biden could snatch Arizona. Biden can likely to lose Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia, and if he wins, the blue wall states. But vote counting in Pennsylvania is proceeding slowly as officials sort through a mountain of absentee ballots. More than 100 million people cast their ballots in early voting before Election Day. Millions of ballots were cast early in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and have yet to be counted. Both states accept mail-in ballots that were postmarked by Election Day. The Supreme Court has approved the extensions of the deadlines for accepting mail-in ballots in each of those states. Both Trump and Biden need 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. According to the U.S. Associated Press, as of 1 a.m. Pacific Time or 5 p.m. in the Philippines, Trump has 213 electoral votes, while Biden has 238 electoral votes. Meanwhile, Republicans are vying to hang on to a Senate majority while the House of Representatives is expected to stay in Democratic hands. Arlene?
Thank you so much, James Bontuyan, reporting live from Maryland, USA. Meanwhile, the Filipino-American community is quite divided between President Donald Trump and his Democrat opponent Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential elections, according to Philippine Ambassador to the U.S. Jose Manuel Romualdez. The ambassador said that there are quite a number of Filipino-Americans in the northeast region of the U.S. who are obviously leaning towards the Democratic side. There were around 4.3 billion Filipino Americans, half of which are eligible to vote. The U.S. presidential elections is currently unfolding amid the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic.
Malacan expressed confidence that the bilateral relations between the Philippines and the United States will remain strong whatever the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential elections. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
U.S. President Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden are running neck and neck in a number of battleground states. When asked if there would be changes in the Philippines' relationship with the U.S. if a new president is elected or the incumbent will be re-elected, Malacan says the government does not expect any major changes in the bilateral relations. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, the U.S. State Department has assured the continuity of their foreign policy. On the issue of personal relations, presidential spokesperson Roque thinks that the president can establish an equally warm personal relations with whoever wins the election. Roque acknowledged the personal relationship between President Duterte and U.S. President Trump, but noted that he could also establish rapport with Biden if he wins the November 3 polls. The palace, meanwhile, refuses to give its take on who does it think will win the presidential race. Meanwhile, the Embassy of the United States in the Philippines believes the warm relations of the two countries will stay, and the Philippine-U.S. alliance will flourish.
We also celebrate the strength, the vitality, and the endurance of the U.S.-Philippine alliance and the Philippine-American friendship. I'm quite confident that that too will not change and will only grow and flourish for many years to come.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, the number of fatalities due to Typhoon Rolly has climbed to 20. In its latest situation report, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, said the number of injured persons also rose to 74, while 3 people were missing. The casualties were reported from Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Bicol regions, it added. The NDRRMC said a total of 532,794 families, or more than 2 million individuals, were affected by Rolly in regions 2 and 3, Bicol, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and the National Capital Region. The agency said a total of 84 cities and municipalities in Region 5 and Mimaropa are still experiencing water interruptions, while 68 areas in Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Region 5 have experienced network interruption due to Rolly. Power outages also remain a problem in 151 cities and municipalities in Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Region 5. Typhoon Rolly has left a total of almost 4.8 billion pesos worth of damage to infrastructure in Region 5. And in agriculture, an estimate of nearly 2 billion pesos worth of damages to crops, livestock, fisheries, and agricultural facilities was reported by authorities.
The Department of Energy, or DOE, cannot give a definite timeline as to when electricity will be fully restored in areas badly affected by Typhoon Rolly. Joanano tells us why.
Thousands of residents in the Bicol region suffers from major power outage following the onslaught of Super Typhoon Rolly. Because of severe damages to electric posts, power cables, and some of transmission towers, the Department of Energy has yet to announce as to when will they be able to restore the power supply in areas hardly hit by the typhoon, particularly in Catanduanes and Albay provinces. Although they are yet to give specific timeline, the DOE assures that they are doing all their efforts to restore electricity at the soonest possible time.
We don't like people to be suffering and or inconvenience because walang kuryente. So talagang nasa puso namin yan, nasa isipan namin yan, na hindi namin hihintay ng Pasko at kailangan magkaroon ng kuryente ang mga tao.
Based on DOE's partial damage assessment, around 2.8 billion worth of electric posts and cable wires have been destroyed by the typhoon. The agency admitted that they find it hard to do damage assessment due to difficulty in accessing hardly hit areas. Meanwhile, the DOE assures that they will prioritize to restore power supply on essential establishments in order to resume their services to residents in Bicol region.
as of yesterday, we were able to penetrate certain portions already. We are targeting the hospitals, we are targeting the vital installations, we are targeting the commercial areas, the banks, and the hardware stores so that mas mabilis yung multiplier effect ng recovery.
Meanwhile, the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, or NGCP, said it will take about a week or two before power lines are fully restored in some parts of the province of Albay. In an update released by NGCP, power lines are still down in the entire jurisdiction of Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, Albay, and Sorsogon. The agency targets to restore selected transmission lines in some parts of Albay within November 10 to 17, while post-typhoon assessment is being conducted in other parts of the province where electricity lines are badly affected by the typhoon. Joan Naro, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council warns the public of bogus solicitations to aid victims of Super Typhoon Rolly. Meanwhile, cell phone signal resumes in parts of Catanduanes Province. Asher Cadapan Jr. reports why live. Asher, go ahead.
Jago Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD Secretary Rolando Bautista personally went to the island province of Catanduanes today to extend assistance and oversee the relief or disaster relief operations for families affected by Super Typhoon Rolly. About 1,300 family food packs were initially distributed to affected residents in the municipalities of Virac and Bato.
Ang isang problema talaga noon nila, yung binanggit nila during sa mga briefing, ay yung pagkain. Dahil may kita mo sa paligid na talagang natumba yung mga karamihan ng mga istruktura doon. Tapos ang ekonomiya, yung mga groceries nila, sari-sari store ay sarado.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, on the other hand, activates its donations focal for those expressing their intent to donate for the affected population of Super Typhoon Rolly. But the agency cautioned the public against bogus solicitations of groups or individuals asking to deposit their monetary donations to a personal bank account or a money transfer outlets. The NDRMC advises those who desire to extend their help to deposit their donations to the official bank account of NDRRMC or contact their operations center. Meanwhile, cellular phone signals are now back in portions of Virac and Bato for both Smart Communications and Globe Telecom. Authorities are still confirming if other areas already have their phone signal back. Road obstructions due to fallen debris, trees, and landslide challenges telcos in their operation for fixing the telco towers possibly damaged by the typhoon. The NDRMC, however, recognizes the significant help that amateur radio groups provided in relaying important information for the disaster management operations while the telcos in the province are down. Diego?
Thank you, Asher Cadapan Jr., reporting live.
President Rodrigo Duterte needs to choose who will be the next chief of the Philippine National Police, or PNP. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
PNP Chief Police General Camilo Cascolan is set to retire on his 56th birthday on November 10, 2020, Tuesday. That is why DILG Secretary Eduardo Año has submitted to President Rodrigo Duterte a short list of candidates for the next chief PNP. Año refused to divulge their names, but 3 of them are senior police officials. If the hierarchy of PNP will be followed, PNP Deputy Chief per Administration and Joint Task Force Coronavirus Shield Commander and the second-in-command Police Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar will be the next Chief PNP. Third-in-command is Deputy Chief per Operations, Police Lieutenant General Cesar Hotorn Binag. Fourth is Chief Directorial Staff Police Major General Joselito Veracruz. Eleazar, Binag, and Veracruz were members of the PMA Hinirang class of 1987. Eleazar and Binag will retire in April and November 2021 respectively, while Veracruz will retire on March 2022. In a press briefing in Camp Crame, General Cascolan said He has not yet received an order from the President regarding an extension of his term.
I haven't talked yet with the good president, but if he will be calling me, of course, susunod lang naman po tayo sa kautusan. Trabaho lang po tayo. And it follows that, of course, siyempre, yung mga pinagagawa ko naman po natin para sa kabutihan, and whoever will be able to go up the leadership and change me, of course, I know that he will be able to sustain and continue our programs.
He is yet to recommend any names of the officials that will possibly replace him.
Kahit sino, and as I told you, they are part of our dream team.
Cascolan assumed office last September 2, 2020, after the retirement of his mista, former PNP Chief Police General Archie Gamboa. Aside from the said three officials that are members of the command group, names of other contenders for PNP Chief floated. Among them are Major General de Bolsinas, NCRPO Chief and Police Regional Office 4A Director, Police Brigadier General Vicente Danao Jr., who belongs to PMA class of 1991. Sinas is set to retire in May next year, while Danao has 2 more years left in his service. Under the Republic Act 6975, the President can choose from a 1-star general or brigadier general for the chief PNP post. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte signed an executive order placing a price cap on reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR testing and test kits for coronavirus disease 2019. Executive Order number 118 directs the Department of Health in coordination with the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI to ensure accessibility and affordability of COVID-19 tests and test kits. In signing the EO, President Duterte recognized the priority of the state to ensure that the general public, especially those from low and middle income households, have equitable access to quality and affordable healthcare services such as COVID-19 tests. Meanwhile, Malacan admits the Philippine Red Cross's decision to stop its COVID-19 tests somehow contributed to lesser COVID-19 cases in the country. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The national daily average of coronavirus cases in the country dropped by 25% in the last 2 weeks, according to the report of the Department of Health. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque believes the action of the Philippine Red Cross or PRC in stopping COVID-19 tests funded by the PhilHealth somehow contributed to lesser COVID-19 cases. This is because less testing means less COVID-19 numbers. However, according to the palace official, for the most part, people helped in improving the COVID-19 situation in the country. This is through compliance with the minimum health standards to prevent the further spread of the infectious disease. PRC halted its COVID-19 testing for overseas Filipino workers, airports and seaports passengers, as well as in government swabbing facilities after PhilHealth failed to pay its debt amounting to 930 million pesos. However, the humanitarian organization resumed its testing on October 28 after PhilHealth made a partial payment. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Health Department assures that the process of procurement and development of COVID-19 vaccines will stay the same despite the appointment of a vaccine czar. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Health Department welcomes the appointment of Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. as the country's vaccine czar. The agency says it does not doubt that the official will be able to do the job, although he is a military man and has no background in medicine. According to DOH spokesperson Maria Rosario Vergere, the vaccine czar has the department's full support.
Nandito pa rin po kaming mga national government agencies to support him and to follow his lead. Nilagay lang siya dyan para mas magkaroon tayo ng more expeditious at saka more efficient manner of doing all of these things that we need for the vaccines that nadadalin dito sa atin. And we will help him, we will support him. Ang buong gobyerno po ay tutulong sa kanya, kasama na po yung mga iba nating partners.
Undersecretary Vergere also added that they are aware of the vaccine czar's role, strict monitoring of the development of COVID-19 vaccines, and expediting its procurement process. But according to the Health Department, there would be no changes on the processes already in place regarding the development and procurement.
Ang kanyang mga specific tasks to handle would be the purchasing, the negotiations, the manufacturing, production, and distribution of the vaccine. Of course, si Secretary Galvez will not work alone. So no processes will be changed. Madadagdagan lang po siguro because we now have this vaccine czar, our leader, baka mag-a-add siya ng more expeditious ng mga proseso para mas mabilis po tayo.
The DOH assures that DOST's Vaccine Experts Panel and groups of vaccinologists in different institutions are ready to assist the vaccine czar. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health reported additional 987 cases, bringing the national tally to 388,137. The total number of COVID-19 survivors rose to 349,091, with a recovery of 140 patients. The death toll, however, rose to 7,367 as 49 more patients succumbed to the severe respiratory disease. The recoveries and deaths left the country with 31,679 active cases, of which 82.6% are mild, 10.1% asymptomatic, 4.7% severe, and 2.6% critical. Davao City recorded the highest number of new infections with 136, followed by Iloilo, Quezon City, Taguig City, and Iloilo City.
The House Committee on Transportation urges the government to add more public utility vehicles on the road. Meanwhile, some jeepney drivers in Metro Manila are stalled to return due to their quick response for QR code. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
Lawmakers from the Committee on Transportation find it justifiable to add more public utility vehicles to address the shortage of public transport. According to Committee Chairman Congressman Edgar Sarmiento, there are some areas in the country where traditional jeepneys have not yet been authorized to resume service, just like in Cebu City. With this, the House Committee approved the committee report and resolution urging the Department of Transportation to enable more PUVs to ply the roads. Bayan Muna Representative Ferdinand Gaite, in his resolution, even proposed for the return of 100% of jeepneys on the road. Gaite says this resolution is being supported by around 130 lawmakers.
Ang tinutulak po nga ng tinatawang ito ay 100% na balikpasada ng ating public utility jeepneys. Alam po natin na ang jeepney ang pinakamura, pinaka-affordable sa ordinaryong mamamayan.
The committee also ordered the DOTR to submit a weekly report on the number of additional PUVs being authorized to resume services. As for the DOTR, the department has already launched Upland Air, which aims to add more public transport.
Air po, A is to add, I is to increase, and R is to reduce yung travel time. And we are proud to say po at this point na we are really working hard po to open up our public transportation.
Meanwhile, a group of jeepney operators and drivers say that they are finding it hard to retrieve their QR code.
Yung libo-libo po na yun, ay halos lahat po naman ay hindi rin nakakatakbo. Dahil doon sa mga requirement po nila, katulad po ng QR code na lagi namang offline. Kaya yun po nagiging dahilan, kaya karamihan po ng mga binigyan nila ng pagkakataon na makatakbo na, hanggang ngayon po ay hindi pa sila tumatakbo.
UNTV tried to get the statement of LTFRB Chairman Delgra but has yet to receive his answer on the issue of the QR code website being offline most of the time, as claimed by the group. Meanwhile, the House Committee says they will listen separately on the concerns of the drivers and operators and make an appropriate recommendation or action to solve the problem on transportation. As of November 2, There are more than 92,000 public utility vehicles plying the streets of Metro Manila, including jeepneys, taxis, TNVS, UV Express, P2P buses, and provincial buses. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Public Works and Highways has resumed its operations in the flood control project in Metro Manila amid the COVID-19 pandemic. These projects are believed to be the solution to the flood problem in the metro. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Metro Manila experienced the worst flood when Typhoon Ondoy drenched the country last 2009. To prevent a repeat of such a catastrophe, the Department of Public Works and Highways has started 11 mega flood control projects worth 351 billion pesos. The master plan prioritizes improvements in the Pasig-Marikina River system, where dikes have been elevated and expanded to protect residents from flooding and flash floods. The 3 ongoing projects in the area is funded by Japan.
Naging barometer natin, ang ating measuring stick is si Ondoy, kaya nagsasabi sila sa Marikina, ang tataas ata ng mga ginagawang dike. Of course, because that is the level of Ondoy in 2009.
The dam will be constructed in Montalban area to control the flow of water that would come from Marikina and Pasig River. Part of the project includes improvements in the river system of Maykawayan, Malabon-Tulyahan, South Parañaque Las Piñas, and the East Mangahan floodway, as well as the improvements in Laguna Lake and adjoining rivers. The agency also plans to construct a 1.3-kilometer spillway or tunnel in Parañaque to facilitate water flow from Laguna Lake to Manila Bay. At present, about 36 pumping stations are undergoing rehabilitation across Metro Manila, while the agency is also planning to construct additional 20 to strengthen the capital's flood control system. Also, the DPWH targets to reorganize the region's waste disposal and collection system to spare creeks and waterways from clogging garbage that usually causes massive flooding.
Kailangan natin ng pumping station sa mga ilog to pump out yung tubig papunta sa mga seas, rivers, and yung pinaka-main waterway natin, which is Pasig-Marikina River.
But the official noted that one big challenge to these projects is the presence of informal settlers in concerned areas, as they needed to be relocated first so all works would run smoothly. Funds for other projects were allocated from the country's annual budget corresponding to their years of implementation. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Some lawmakers renew their call for the creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience. However, some senators disagree with the idea of adding a whole new department to an already bloated bureaucracy. Arlene Delgado tells us why.
Following the onslaught of Super Typhoon Rolly, some lawmakers have renewed their call for the immediate passage of the proposed Department of Disaster Resilience. According to Senator Grace Poe, there is a need for a dedicated agency that will focus on disaster resilience and management, and it should be a priority. Senator Christopher Bongo shares the same sentiment. According to the senator, a new department will enable immediate response to disasters on the ground.
With the Department of Disaster Resilience, one department with regional offices and even provincial offices po na ready pong tumugon. Importante po yung cabinet secretary level po. Dahil kung USEC lang po na level ang magpapatawag, hindi pupunta yung mga kapwa sa secretary sa ibang departamento.
However, some senators do not agree with the proposal. For Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon, there is no need for a full department, as there is already an established system headed by the Office of the Civil Defense and National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC. Drilon said a new department would only increase the bureaucracy instead of streamlining it. What must be done, according to Drilon, is to strengthen the planning and coordination among government agencies involved in disaster response. Senator Richard Gordon shared the same idea.
Meron na tayong mga tao talaga na in charge eh. Huwag na tayo gumawa pa dahil makakabawasan naman sa pera ng gobyerno na dapat ilaan sa ibang bagay. Pagalingin na lang natin yung naandyan.
Senator Panfilo Lacson also expressed concern on the funding of the proposed new department. He said, according to the Department of Budget and Management, 1.5 billion pesos is needed to establish the department, which does not yet include the costs for added salaries and operating expenses. Lacson added, the implementation of recovery and rehabilitation will not be carried out by the new department, but by existing agencies, including Department of Public Works and Highways and Department of Social Welfare and Development. The House of Representatives passed the proposed measure in September, while at least 6 similar bills are still pending at the committee level in the Senate. Senate President Vicente Soto III has yet to confirm when will the measure be taken up again for discussion. Earlier, House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco also urged the upper chamber to act on the proposed bill following the onslaught of Typhoon Quinta in his province, Marinduque. For Velasco, the creation of the Department of Disaster Resilience will allow the country to be constantly prepared when natural disaster strikes and will enable other departments to focus their efforts in helping the country to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jorlin Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for our weather update, Tropical Storm Siony intensifies into a severe tropical storm. State Weather Bureau Pag-asa says as of 4 p.m. today, Siony was estimated 735 kilometers east of Basco, Batanes, with maximum sustained winds of 95 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 115 kilometers per hour while slowly moving northward. Siony is expected to move slowly or remain almost stationary in the next 6 to 12 hours. It will then move generally westward or west-northwestward towards Luzon, Strait, and extreme northern Luzon. This will bring the center of Siony over or very close to the Batanes and Babuyan Islands between tomorrow evening or Friday morning. Siony is forecast to intensify into typhoon on Thursday prior to close approach or landfall over extreme northern Luzon and may reach its peak intensity at 125 kilometers per hour. Tropical cyclone wind signal number 1 is raised over the northeastern portion of mainland Cagayan, particularly Santa Ana and Gonzaga, and the eastern portion of Babuyan Island. The combined effects of the northeasterlies and the trough of Siony will bring light to moderate with at times heavy rains over Bicol region, Aurora, Quezon, and the eastern portion of Cagayan and Isabela. Pag-asa warns of flooding or rain-induced landslides may occur during heavy rainfall. Siony is expected to exit the Philippine area of responsibility Friday afternoon or evening.
And for the news abroad, here's Kat Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
Good evening, William. Anti-lockdown protesters in Melbourne rallied against the hard lockdown imposed by the Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews. 404 anti-lockdown rallyists have been arrested by Victoria Police. Meanwhile, changes to the Australian government funding to universities have angered student unions, triggering a planned protest aimed to stop tuition fee hikes. From Australia, Earl Briones will tell us why live. Good evening, Earl.
Kat, it's been a week since Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews has announced further easing of restrictions in Metro Melbourne. However, this did not stop the 404 anti-lockdown protesters to gather outside the Victorian Parliament yesterday, disobeying multiple mandatory restrictions such as wearing a face mask and social distancing rules. Protesters also violated the 25-kilometer distance restrictions, as well as protest gathering of no more than 10 people. Victorian police was seen to have used capsicum spray on the protesters and fined 395 rallies. The state of Victoria has recorded 0 new COVID-19 cases for 5 consecutive days, with 30 active cases. Meanwhile, the National Union of Students Victoria is set to perform a protest on Friday, November 13, against the university tuition fee hikes, chanting "No cuts, no fees, no corporate universities. The students are protesting against university job cuts on teachers and librarians, as well as tuition fee increases, which the union sees will create a two-tiered education system that will increase inequalities. According to the recent federal announcement, the Australian government is expected to change the way government funding is provided to schools. From January 1, 2021, the cost to study for some degrees will significantly increase by up to 113%. Humanities and communication courses are the top two courses that will be impacted by the tuition fee hike from the current 6,804 Australian dollars to 14,800 Australian dollars fee increase. On the other course fees in the education, mental health, as well as nursing and agriculture sectors are set to be reduced by at least 42 to 59%. The National Union of Students Victoria also believes that education should be for everyone, free and accessible for all. Kat?
Thank you, Earl, for that update live from Australia. The Malabar naval exercise officially kicks off this month, where Australia joined India, the United States of America, and Japan. Live from Australia, Mavian Dog tells us why live. Maeve?
Kath, to show their coordination in the Indo-Pacific region and send a message to China, Australia joins India, the United States of America, and Japan in the largest joint naval exercise called Exercise Malabar 20, which commenced on Tuesday in the Bay of Bengal. Malabar 20 is on its first phase until this Friday, November 6, where 5 Indian Navy ships and a submarine, the U.S. Navy's John S. McCain missile destroyer, Australia's Ballarat frigate, and Japan's maritime self-defense ship have been deployed. According to India's Defense Ministry statement, the exercise is conducted with no contact between the 4 countries' military personnel because of COVID-19 restrictions. The joint exercise showcases the countries' high levels of synergy and coordination between the countries. The Phase 2 of this exercise is also scheduled to be conducted in the Arabian Sea in mid-November this year. Amid the increasing tensions of each 4 countries with China, their informal group called the Quad also commenced the naval exercise as part of their effort to balance China's vast military and economic power in the Indo-Pacific region. China has recently announced a series of banned imports from Australia, including barley, sugar, red wine, timber, coal, lobster, copper ore, and copper concentrates, with the addition of Australian wheat at the latest. Due to these tensions, former Australian ambassador to China, Jeff Raby, said that Australia and China's diplomatic relations are at the lowest point since they have made ties in 1972. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Mavian Dog reporting live from Australia. The United States and Australia have mobilized humanitarian assistance to support the Philippines recover from the onslaught of Super Typhoon Rolly. Marvy Delfin will give us the details live. Go ahead, Marvy.
Kath, Australia and other countries step up their relief efforts in the Philippines and have begun mobilizing their aid resources to provide humanitarian support to help Filipinos recover from the impact left by Super Typhoon Rolly. On an official Facebook post on Monday, Australian Ambassador to the Philippines, Stephen J. Robinson, extended his sympathies to the Filipino people for the loss of lives and properties. Ambassador Robinson commended the Philippines' preparedness measures despite the challenges of battling the COVID-19 pandemic. He also said that Australia is a friend and partner of the Philippines and stands ready to support the Philippine government's efforts to reach those in need. And so, Ambassador Robinson further stated, in response to Typhoon Rolly, Australia is providing sleeping, hygiene, and emergency shelter kits for 1,000 of the most vulnerable families in the Bicol region, with Philippine Red Cross. Meanwhile, U.S. Embassy Charge d'Affaires John Law tweeted that Washington is working with different international organizations in the Philippines to provide relief to areas worst hit by the natural disaster. Mr. Law affirmed on a tweet on Tuesday, saying, "Our thoughts are with those affected by Typhoon Rolly. The U.S. stands ready to help. We are working with the World Food Program Philippines and the International Organization for Migration Philippines to deliver relief supplies and provide emergency shelter supplies in Bicol." Meanwhile, China sent its own message of solidarity to the Filipino people, and Turkey's foreign ministry expressed their condolences and wished a speedy recovery to the injured. Kath?
All right, Marvy, thank you for that report from Australia. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath de Maraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand.
The Philippines is included among world's safest countries in 2020. Mirasol Abogadil tells us why.
The Philippines has been listed as among the top 50 safest countries in the world, based on the 2020 Global Law and Order report by analytics firm Gallup. The report, which was based on a worldwide survey conducted in 2019, showed the Philippines got an index score of 84 and is tied with Australia, New Zealand, Poland, and Serbia. The report based its scores on the answers of nearly 175,000 adults interviewed in 144 countries and areas. The respondents were asked to answer 4 questions about their confidence in their local police force, safety on walking alone at night where they live, stolen money or property from them or other household members in the past 12 months, and being assaulted or mugged in the past 12 months. Singapore and Turkmenistan topped the list with a law and order index score of 97. They are followed by China, Iceland, Kuwait, Norway, Austria, Switzerland, Uzbekistan, and the United Arab Emirates. Afghanistan placed at the bottom of the ranking with a score of 43. The Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process welcomed the results of the Gallup poll, stressing that maintaining peace and security is a shared responsibility amongst stakeholders. The Department of the Interior and local governments said the survey results is proof that the government is winning the war against criminality and drugs, and that the people appreciate and recognize the significant accomplishments of the Philippine National Police and other law enforcement agencies. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, November 4, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.